Are live. We will get the stream all set up here. All right. Blast this out to social media. If you're not following us already on X at your ESN is where you can find not just it says the chat's disabled. I have to see if I can change that. See if that will change it. Hopefully it will. So it's been nice having the chat available, but I think there we go. Okay, chat should be open. Again, this is just there's a handful of streams that we've done, so I'm still figuring it out. There we go. Now we've got the chat going, got the stream up. Put this out to social media. If you're not following us on X at your ESN, that's where we post pretty much all of our content, all of our stories that we get up, post it there. Our website, elisportsnetwork.com. Also on our X page, we'll post out stream links to various games that we do when we're covering high school sports. As always, if you have any thoughts on what you saw today, put it into the chat. Let me know what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like, anything that caught your attention. No time restraints today, as don't have to be anywhere today. So thankfully, we can have a little bit more of an extended recap, similar to what we did for the Masters. So, all right, now that we are all settled in, let's dive into busy day. Got the notebook going for today. Let's dive right into the leaderboard first, and then we'll go through what took place today. I think because when we last convened on Thursday, and it wasn't even play was over. Johnny Vegas wasn't even on our radar as far as perhaps maybe not being the top guy. Certainly didn't think after 36 holes, at least I didn't think that he would be 36 hole leader. But here we are with Vegas being at least in the mix going into today. But today was dominated by Scotty Scheffler. He has the round of the day. He gained 7.5 strokes on the field, 6 strokes he gained tee to green, nearly 3 strokes gained off the tee, 3 1/3 strokes gained approach. The only thing that was subpar was his putting, around the green, where he actually lost 1/10 of a stroke, but his putting was also really good. Nearly 1.5 strokes he gained putting, but down the stretch on the back nine, that's really where he made his money. Bogey's 11, and you're thinking, what's going to happen here? Birdie's 12, bogey 13, and then nearly with an ace on 14, gets eagle, birdie on 15, par 16, birdie 17, birdies 18, and that puts him in the house with the 65, 6 under, and again, that's the lowest round of the day. Gaining almost 5, he gained 4.6 strokes on the field with just his back nine performance alone. And just it's the round of the week for sure. And could be the round of the championship, and could be the round that really propels Scotty to win some more majors down the stretch. We've seen him do this at Augusta. We've seen him do it at various stops on the PGA Tour. And I wrote about how we're waiting for Scotty to have that mark and have that moment where he goes out and gets something that isn't the Masters and something that isn't the Byron Nelson. And he is certainly in the driver's seat right now with a 3-shot lead over Alex Noren, who we'll talk a little bit about later. But Alex Noren, coming off of injury, it's just his seventh round since injury in the last half year, and he is coming back in a big way. Had a great day putting. Tee to green, played well. Also, Noren, third best putting day, gained over 3 strokes putting, but and was phenomenal out of the bunker on the back nine. He had the runner-up round of the day, shot 66, but he trails by 3. But he is in solo second. That will be our final pairing. Pairings are already out, so we'll take a look at that as well. But Scheffler out in front by 3 over Alex Noren. Riley Davis and JT Poston, that's your penultimate pairing. They are tied for third at 7 under. You've got John Rahm, Siwoo Kim, Jonathan Vegas, all tied for 5th at 6 under. All 3 of them had very different days. You've got John Rahm on the ascension. Siwoo Kim had a roller coaster ride of a day. Felt like he probably played better than even. And then Vegas, I think the pressure got to him. Pretty expected that Vegas would. It wasn't a full ejection from the tournament, but figured he wouldn't. He would probably be around this spot. But he hung in there, hit some pretty poor shots, and got some bad breaks. But just overall, not really not the day that he needed. Certainly shooting 2 over par. Keegan Bradley, Tony Finau, Bryson DeChambeau. We'll talk a lot about DeChambeau in a little bit. Matthew Pavone, talk a little bit about him as well. And Matthew Fitzpatrick, all finishing T8. They are 5 under par. And again, it felt like each one of them played very different rounds in resulting in that group at 5 under. Matt Wallace, Adam Scott, Joe Highsmith, Garrick Higgo are all 4 under. Garrick Higgo just recently won a couple of weeks ago in an opposite field event. Lucas Glover, Cam Davis, Denny McCarthy, Ryan Gerard, Ryan Fox, and Max Grazerman. That's T17 at 3 under. That rounds out the top 20. Really not a whole lot to talk about beneath that. Joaquin Niemann, he's 1 under, shot even today, T31. David Pooge climbing the leaderboard, 2 under overall, 3 under for the 3 under today. He's at T23, along with a pretty big group of guys there. Yeah, not a whole lot down the leaderboard. We'll get into some guys that maybe had some disappointing days at looking down at the leaderboard. Sergio Garcia, for what it's worth, is the caboose at 9 over, shot 8 over today. He is in 74th. Okay, let's start with Scotty Scheffler, because that's the number one story, right? Is Scheffler coming out and really getting a stranglehold grip on the championship. And it felt like it was still up for grabs, especially when DeChambeau took the lead. That's really where it felt like, where is this going? And let's see, just gonna get Bryson DeChambeau on here as well, because there was a moment in time where DeChambeau 8 under through 15. He makes birdie at 15. Scheffler 7 under through 12. And you're going, well, okay. Looks like we're going to have a duel between Scheffler and DeChambeau. Well, things really turn very quickly with Bryson bogeying 16, doubling 17. Talk about his decision, doubling 17 in a little bit. And then Scotty goes on that run. Even though he did bogey 13, but going on that run to close things out, and really it felt like he could have even maybe birdied 16 as well. It's a very impressive Scotty-esque kind of round where doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, and he has really mashed his foot down on the pedal, and it feels like it is his to lose, which doesn't really happen often, where he loses in these situations. Data Golf has him with a 77% win percentage probability of winning this championship, which would be his third major. And that would be big for Scotty. And I wrote about this when I talked about who needed this PGA championship the most, who would benefit the most um, out of all the players, because obviously, like the whole field, yeah, they're going to benefit from winning the PGA championship, but there's a select few where it would really it would benefit them more than the others. And I put Scheffler at second, right behind Jordan Spieth, for obvious reasons of him attempting to go for the career Grand Slam. Now, I didn't think that Spieth would come close to the career Grand Slam, but he has the most to gain. But one of the things that I wrote was that he's been the best player in the world for the last 3 years, but it's time for him to start winning majors elsewhere. And that's really the only knock that you can possibly have on Scheffler. And with this being a regular stop on the PGA Tour, I wrote that the course should fit Scheffler's eye, and that would be his third major, which it looks like it would be. And this is a big legacy building moment, I think, for Scheffler to now be halfway to the career Grand Slam. Should he close the deal tomorrow, you're halfway to the career Grand Slam, and the other half you're playing in the next two championships. It's the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. I still think he has some time to figure out links golf. I don't know. I would be shocked if he wins the Open this year. I still think he needs a couple of years of playing in link style and figuring it out before he eventually wins one. And then the U.S. Open, I think that's another place where he's so patient and so stoic that he can just lurk and almost let all of everyone step on landmines, and he ends up walking right through the dust and ends up at the finish line. I could see that happening at a U.S. Open or Opens. But the PGA Championship is one where he should have at least one, 2 or 3, you would think, by the end of his career, especially if it's at courses like this where it's gettable and scoring is out there. And we saw it today. Perhaps the rain may be softening the greens a little bit, because we saw how firm they were in the first 2 rounds, and the sub-air was really working at Quail. But the other thing that I think really impressed me today was his driver accuracy. Scheffler was first in accuracy today, hit 93% of the fairways. He only missed one, and that was on 17. Excuse me, that was on no, that was where he 11. That's right, missed it on 11. Looking at the wrong stat, he missed it on 11, and that resulted in bogey, and that's it. He hit every single fairway, and that's so important in winning here at Quail with the rough. And yeah, I know the rough isn't as challenging as some of the other places that we'll see this year in majors, but you still need to be in the fairway. You still need to put yourself in position, and that's exactly what Scheffler did. He did an outstanding job of that today. It's why from tee to green he gained over 6 strokes. And the other part is he's hitting it so far that he's giving himself short irons and wedges and even shots like on 17 and even 16 as well, where he's hitting these long shots with mid irons, but they're holding. That's really impressive, because maybe if the greens are firmer, he's not holding them up as well. But he gets them to hold up. Like John Rahm's shot on 16, that Rahm really threw a laser in there. Scheffler did something similar on 16, not as close as Rahm's, obviously. And then on 17, he does the same thing as well. But this is an opportunity for Scheffler, I think, to flex his muscles and not just win the tournament, but to do what I didn't think would happen unless it was Scheffler, DeChambeau, or McIlroy, and go out and win this in a runaway fashion by 4 or more. He's sitting at 3 right now, and I mean, with the guys that are behind him, there's really only 2 players. I think it's a 3-player championship. at this point. Um, with all due respect to the rest of the field, it might be 4, but outside of I'll put Siwoo Kim in there. Outside of Siwoo Kim, John Rahm, and Bryson DeChambeau, who do you really think is going to give Scotty a run for their money? And not only give Scotty a run for their money, they'd have to shoot like 64. And that's assuming Scotty doesn't go out there and shoot another 68, 67. If Scotty shoots 2 under or better, it's over. Probably, right? You would have to think that if he gets to 13, that should be it. I mean, that would mean John Rahm would have to go 7 under. He'd have to shoot 64 just to match 13 under. And DeChambeau would have to go 8 under. He'd have to shoot 63 to just potentially get into a playoff. And you're looking at the guys at 4 under or below. That takes them out of the championship essentially. And that's just saying it should Scotty go 1 under, 1 under. And I'm giving him a couple of strokes. He might actually better that. So that's the possibility for what Scotty Scheffler faces tomorrow, is he can have a pretty easy day and look at the leaderboard and go, I probably just need to beat John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Siwoo Kim. If I beat those 3, I mean, and he doesn't even have to beat them. That's the other thing for tomorrow. He can give up a couple of shots and still win it. I mean, 10 under might be good enough. 9 under might be good enough to win it. So that's the good benefit for Scheffler. He did all of his work on moving day. And I mean, that's why today is called moving day in these championships, because all of this movement, he just set himself up for a much easier, calmer day, and he can just let the rest of the field blow up. Just like I was saying a minute ago about maybe Scheffler winning a U.S. Open that way. Well, he can watch the rest of the field self-destruct in front of him while he's in the back, calmly plotting himself around the course, playing his smart, strategic golf that Scheffler does. That's exactly what Scotty needed out of today's round. He went out there and did it. And the craziest part is there were moments where you were like, oh, this is getting a little hairy, especially after 13. But to close like that, especially on 17 and 18, well, 16, 17, 18, getting himself green in regulation, green in regulation, green in regulation, with 2 fairways in regulation as well. That's huge stuff. That is very big stuff from Scheffler. He actually hit his furthest drive of the day on 16, blasted it 333. And that was his second longest of the day. Sorry, missed on 12. He went 336, but still, I mean, he's amped up and he still puts it in the fairway where he needs to. In a replaced divot on 18, that doesn't phase him. He still sticks a dart. So this is it's why Scheffler draws the Tiger comparisons, because there's this feeling like when Scheffler gets out in front, it's over. There's no coming back from it. And that's what it was with Tiger. When he'd get out in front and he would be leading, even if it were a 1-shot lead, especially in a major, when he was in the final pairing, it's over. Who's playing for second? The famous Larry Bird line. So that's where it is with Scheffler right now. And until proven otherwise, that's going to continue to be the case, as Scotty is just so dominant and so impressive. And he hasn't had a close major victory. He hasn't needed to come down to the 72nd or a playoff like Rory McIlroy. He's been out in front. Also kind of similar to Rory McIlroy in a sense, when Rory won his first couple of majors pretty easily. But a statement day from Scotty Scheffler, getting himself out in front, 6 under, again, a round of the day. Okay, let's take a look at the notebook here. Johnny Vegas just started nervous. You could see it. he looked uncomfortable. Um, Looked like he was like when you watch Scotty Scheffler, and that's part of his greatness is his demeanor and how calm and stoic he feels. But then you watch some of these other guys that aren't in that same scenario week in, week out. They look anxious. They look worried. They look like so bothered. Sometimes they almost look like they'd rather be elsewhere. And that's what Vegas looked like today. He didn't look like himself. And that ended up really showing throughout the day. And that's why he gets off to bad start. Bogeys 1, bogeys 2, fives are down. He gets a birdie back on 7, birdies 14, and then he puts one in the water on 15. But just a very nervy start with those 2 bogeys, and really it looked like it could have been even worse than just making bogey on the first 2. So very nervy start. The wind was whipping today. But the third note that I had, this is a pretty prescient observation. If I want to pat myself on the back here, I wrote 14 will provide fireworks late today. Boy, did it ever! When we'll take a look at what Mr. Scheffler did on 14, but that's a fun hole, and I thoroughly enjoy courses where late in the round there's that risk reward. And we saw that with Matthew Fitzpatrick on 14. It's the easiest. Yeah, it's the easiest hole by almost a tenth of a stroke today. 14 played 0.45 strokes under par. You had 4 eagles, 32 birdies, 32 pars, and only 5 bogeys and 1 double or worse. So obviously, when you have almost as many eagles as bogeys, it's a really easy hole for the most part. But you looked at what Matthew Fitzpatrick did. He made it a complete mess. Ended up bogeying the hole. He lost a stroke and a half to the field on that hole alone with his bogey. And he put it in the wrong spot. But that's what I love about 14 is that and these short par 4s that we see, and hopefully Oakmont is like that as well with 17. And I actually just rewatched the 2007 U.S. Open, and I'll be doing the same with the 2016 U.S. Open, and I can't wait to revisit that for many reasons. But when you watch that, and I also rewatched the 2009 U.S. Open, 09 at Bethpage. There are 2 holes, 18 at Bethpage. They had it play as a short par 4. I'll get back to Oakmont in a minute, but 18 at Bethpage, they had it play as a short par 4. Pin was in the front, and you had to hit a wedge, a demanding wedge that was similar to what we saw at Philly Cricket Club on Sunday on the back 9 on the par 3 that played at 95 yards. Pin was tucked in the front, and you had to be precise. And everyone was launching wedges over. And that's what and that kind of drama, it's enticing. And the same thing could happen at Oakmont at 17, where you could force guys to have to be accurate. You have to put it on the green or around the green to give yourself a manageable chip. Or you could do what Matt Fitzpatrick did today and completely bungle it and pretty much take yourself out of the tournament. If he birdies that, he's at 7 under. Fitzpatrick is. I mean, that's a 2-shot swing. He eagles it. He's 8 under. He might be in the last pairing. I can't remember how the pairings work here, but either way, he'd either be in the last pairing or the second to last pairing, 3 shots back. It took him out of the championship by bogeying that hole. And that's what I love about these short par 4s, is there is someone who ruins their championship, who's in contention by not even birdieing it, and there's that ability to have the eagle. And let's say Scheffler has about this type of lead tomorrow. He's up by, let's say it's 3 shots. If he eagles it tomorrow, it's the Vince Carter meme. It's over. The Vince Carter gif. It's over. But let's say he gets 5. Now you're walking up to 15, and we saw Johnny Vegas yanked one into the water, the green mile lurking. It makes things interesting. And that's why I really have enjoyed what the back 9, really the last 5 holes can produce. It's unexpected. You don't know what you're going to get. And it's been really enjoyable to see those last 5 holes really shine. And it starts with the short par 4. And I think championship golf should demand that type of shot where you need to be precise off the tee, and not just precise, but you need to be able to hit the right shot when the pressure is on off the tee. It's so easy to just wail away down the fairway with a driver. But can you hit your 3-wood exactly, what was it playing, like 305 or whatever? Can you hit it exactly 305? And not just 305, but can you have it hit in the right spot? Maybe get the right bounce as well. But do you have that shot when you need it most? And that was an interesting it was an interesting hole, and I've really enjoyed watching 14. And we saw it break someone's championship, and we might have seen it clinch the championship for Scheffler by making that eagle. I mentioned, I wrote this down, that Scheffler and Rahm felt like co-leaders early on. Scheffler nearly had an ace on the 4th hole as well, stuck it super close. That's his first birdie of the day. Fans felt like no one was in that last group following them fan wise, and it was weird. It just a weird fan dynamic, and I know it's a little rough because you have like a Rory McIlroy who's on the back 9, and he's obviously going to attract a lot of fans or patrons, whatever you want to call it, at whatever major or any tournament he tees it up at. He's going to attract people to watch him. But it just struck me as shocking. Like Cam Davis in the first round, it looked like a COVID tournament. There was no one watching him. There might have been like 20 people watching him, including the people working that hole. It was on the back 9, or maybe it was on the front 9, but either way, it was shocking. He was like the leader of the championship, and no one was there. So I really hope the fans bring the juice tomorrow, because it would be like, you saw it like with Siwoo and Scheffler on the back 9. There was electricity, especially with those 2 guys, and also Bryson DeChambeau as well. Especially after DeChambeau made birdie on 15, he brought it. There was electricity, but there seemed to be like almost staggered electricity, and it wasn't constant like we see at other majors. And maybe that's because of the split start. But hopefully that doesn't happen tomorrow, where there's just constant energy throughout the day, even if it's a runaway, or as I put it, a jailbreak for Scotty Scheffler. Whatever you want to call it, if Scheffler's winning by a handful and it is over, be still nice if there was some electricity around the tournament, because it feels like, especially the first 2 days, very, very flat. A lot of slow play, big backups all throughout the day. Scotty 6 was a big backup. Last group, they played in 2 hours and 50 minutes, according to the broadcast. That's really slow. And they have rangefinders, so I don't know. But it was slow. And they did a lot of turtle watch the first 2 days. ESPN seemed to focus their broadcast a lot on the turtles, and there were a lot of turtles swinging golf clubs today, because, man, 2 hours and 50 minutes. I don't know if it's groups of 3, because we saw that at the Farmers earlier this year on the PGA Tour, at least. But like even when you watch Live, it doesn't feel like pace of play is an issue. I don't know. I don't know if there's any data out there as to the Live rounds when they play, because they play all of their rounds in groups of three. I'd be interested to see if there's a comparison to Live rounds and PGA Tour rounds when they're grouped in three, especially in like the final round. Because it feels like the PGA Tour, those guys really turtle up and it gets very slow, and it showed again today. Max Homa, man, he got a lot of coverage early, and I wrote, I'm like, he's making a lot of pars, but he needs birdies. He's making these 8, 10, 15 footers, which are nice when you're making birdies, but when you're just making par, doesn't really do a whole lot. And he just got a lot of coverage. And boy, the broadcast really focused in on a couple of guys. There were a couple of guys that were sneaking their way up the leaderboard, but you didn't know about it. Like Matt Wallace is 4 under. Who'd have thought? They only showed Joe Highsmith at the end when he put it in the water on 18. I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, maybe let's show a couple other guys that are sneaking their way up there. Don Rea gave his interview. They must have told him to tame it down and keep his words to a minimum. I don't know if you guys watched his press conference earlier in the week. Man, he is he can fill some airtime. That is for sure. Always smiling, always happy. Everything is amazing, according to Don Rea. If you took a shot every time he said amazing, you wouldn't have lasted until this long. That's for sure. I mean, everything is amazing and great to him. And boy, he's Mr. Positivity. That is for sure. But Don Rea, he's something. A lot of putts short today. Saw a lot of missed putts. Very seldom did you see anyone run it by the hole, at least on the front nine. Really, once they got to about 10 or 11, and I think as things started to dry out, especially with the sun hitting it all day, green started to firm up a little bit, and guys got a little more dialed in with their speed, which makes sense. These guys are pros; they'll figure out the speed as the day goes on. But early on, a lot of putts short, and some of them way short too. There were a couple of lag putts and even just putts from like 20 feet. And you're like, wow, that's for like me or the casual amateur that, it's like anywhere from a scratch to an 8 handicap. Like, yeah, that's a pretty good putt, leaving it a foot or two short. But for a pro, it's like, that's from 20 feet, really? Leaving it that short? It was surprising. Just an observation that I had. Rahm sticking it close on 14. Feels like he is probably lead contender for challenging Scotty Scheffler. We'll take a look at the odds in a little bit. But Rahm, he stuffed it close on 14. That began a 3 birdie stretch for Jon Rahm, and that really inserted himself into the championship. Scotty Scheffler, the break that he got on 8, that might be that's the Brian Campbell Memorial break of the championship. Hammer your drive way out right. And Brian Campbell did this at the Mexico Open earlier this year on the PGA Tour in a playoff with Aldrich Potgieter. Campbell sent one way right. Campbell's was a lot more consequential, because if his hit out of bounds, like it hit one of the trees that was OB and ricocheted way left, and Campbell went on to win that playoff. Scotty, I mean, it wasn't going to go OB, but he would have been, I guess he would have been in jail in the trees. Scotty in jail at the PGA again, but he avoids jail this year by having that ricochet way left. And that's one of those small breaks that probably gets forgotten about. In all likelihood, he's going to win. And let's say he does go on to win. That shot on 8 is going to be one where you forget, but when you really do a deep dive and look back and review the whole tournament, that break on 8 could have that could have undid some things. He makes bogey, vibes are low, you're heading to the back 9. You never know. I mean, one of the great things about Scott, he talked about this earlier, is him being so stoic, but that break on 8, that's one to keep in your back pocket if and when Scotty goes on to win the PGA Championship this year. Johnny Vegas missed such a near gimme on 8. I mean, the broadcast was like pretty much giving that to him. He lost nearly a stroke putting on 8 by making par. Vegas lost 0.8 of a stroke putting today. That puts him at 57th. So just a really brutal day on the greens for Vegas, and that's really where you see guys get nervous. And he also lost shots around the green. When you need touch, that's where nerves are really showing. You want to see who's the most nervous? Take a look at guys at the top of the leaderboard who's losing shots around the green and losing strokes putting. It's that simple, pretty much every single time. And if you're erratic off the tee, and Vegas was hit 9 of 14 fairways, so not terrible. But when you mix in those 3 things, those guys are usually the most nervous. Cam Davis, the poor guy, makes the eagle. First shot that CBS shows on their play, I think it's Eye on the Course that they call it, but it's the playing through that everyone knows and loves. Very first shot they show is Cam Davis holing out on 15. He went 4 under in 3 holes, birdied 13, birdied 14, eagled 15. But Cam Davis, looking to have a solid PGA Championship, was in the mix towards the top for a while, but 1 under today, had a rough day yesterday. But good to see Cam Davis battling back, and perhaps he can get himself into the top 10. Rahm's approach on 16. If Rahm somehow makes this interesting tomorrow, or if he were to force a playoff, but certainly if he makes it interesting, the shot on 16 is one that will cement it. He gained a stroke on that shot alone. He said it was a 3/4 9 iron in the post round with Amanda Balionis. Rahm had a great interview with Amanda Balionis. We'll talk about that in a moment. But sticking it really close, one would have been the shot of the day had Scheffler not stuck it so close on 14, probably at least. But big shot there from Rahm, and that's where it felt like Rahm was asserting himself. 3 birdies in a row, and that's where Rahm was like, okay, I'm here to play, and I'm here to try and get this championship. And that was a big moment. Ends up bogeying 17 right after that, but that was a cool moment on 16, and that's where the mind starts to wander. In the moment, you're going, oh wow, could he get up to? He got to 7 under there. Could he really get up to maybe 8 under and challenge for the lead or be in the final pairing? But that bogey on 17 sets him back just a little bit, though. He'll still be in one of the final pairings. We'll take a look at the pairings later on as well. Siwoo just going drive around the deck on 10. He's so much fun to watch. Broadcast talked about this. Other golf podcasts have talked about this. I'll just touch on it. I don't want to repeat the same thing that everyone else is saying, but he's a lot of fun to watch, and he's a guy that if you don't watch the PGA Tour regularly and you tune in for these majors every once in a while, and you're maybe looking for a guy that you'd like to maybe root for, Siwoo is certainly one of the first people I would point towards and say, this is a guy that's just fun. Everyone loves him. He's had some big success here at the President's Cup. He's just a fun. He's a bright spot with golf, and it'd be funny to see him be a major champion. It would be fun to see Siwoo bring one home, but he is That's what he does. He's the DOD king. He goes at everything. There is no brake pedal with Siwoo Kim. He is all gas, no brakes, and it's fun to watch. It is his issue, though. He does end up shooting himself in the foot, and he was not accurate on the fairways today. Only hit 6 fairways. That ended up hurting him. Also, did not have a good chipping for performance. Did Siwoo Kim lost 0.86 strokes around the green. That's just not going to cut it in major championship golf. But Siwoo, he's fun. He's fun to watch, and a guy that if you don't watch regularly, you could easily root for. I wrote this right as the leaders were making the turn. I'm like, where did Davis Riley come from? And again, this was my issue with the broadcast, was like, we didn't see anyone making the charge in the moment. It felt like they got to these guys too late. Davis Riley bogeyed the second, but after that played a really solid round. Birdied 8, birdied 9, birdied 10, 14, and 15. Played the green mile even, shot 67, gained 5.5 strokes on the field. Had a really good day. Putted very well, gained 2.5 strokes putting, over 2 strokes around the green. Barely got to see him, and that's why I wrote down, where did he come from? Because he kind of came out of nowhere, and it felt a little unjust for Riley to not get as full of coverage while he was starting to build into it. I wrote that Bryson looks confident and dialed. That was right after his 15, his birdie on 15. And then he promptly bogey 16, double 17. We'll talk about that shot on 17 right now. It seemed like he was almost like shocked about the wind. But I don't know why it seemed like he maybe pulled it a little bit left, but his reaction seemed like, I mean, he gave it a pretty vicious club twirl after he hit it. And it looked like as it was going up, he was loving it, and then it reached its apex, and it was a lot further left than he thought. And he's like, "Wait a minute, what's happening?" Maybe a little too risky. DeChambeau only hit 5 fairways today. That is 70th out of 74. Only 2 guys had worse days off the tee accuracy wise. Sam Stevens, and Nikolai Højgaard, who each shot 77. So that just goes to show how well DeChambeau's other areas of the game, especially around the green, were, and also putting. He putted very well, but again, you can't win major championships being that erratic, and he lost half a stroke on approach shots today. This is the same story that we saw with DeChambeau at the Masters. Had opportunities to close in on Rory, but the irons were, and it was big misses too. 20 yards long, 20 yards short. This one, 20, 30 yards left. Just some pretty, wow, shocking misses. And that was my reservation in picking Bryson. He probably will finish top 10. Almost safe to say he'll finish top 5. Him and Rahm should climb up the leaderboard. It would be shocking if both of them or either one of them don't keep rising up the leaderboard. But that was my one reservation, is Bryson going to be locked in with the irons like he was at Pinehurst? Just ended up not having it once again this week, and probably took himself out of the championship with that bogey and double bogey. And he had so much momentum, and with the way how he is so powerful, it almost felt like maybe there's a chance that he might be able to pick off a birdie at some point in the Green Mile. But it's what I said in the preview show. The Green Mile is going to take people's championships away, and we'll see it tomorrow. There's probably going to be someone who's not in the final 5 pairings, make a charge, hit the Green Mile, see ya, and they'll fall out of the top 10. And You can tell Bryson was jacked coming off of his birdie on 15, hit his longest drive of the day, 375 yards. It's his longest drive of the day by 9 yards. So he was really feeling it going into the Green Mile, but wasn't able to capitalize, was in the rough on 16, tried to hit a gap wedge. It wasn't, got to be accurate. I keep saying it, but you have to hit the fairway here. You can't keep hoping to bail yourself out of the rough. You're not gonna be hoisting the Wanamaker. And again, that's why Scheffler shot 600 today. Okay, Jon Rahm, when he talked to Amanda Balionis, he was talking about, he was surprised about all the mistakes he made in his majors, especially in the final round. He talked about, gave a great answer with a great interview all around with Amanda Balionis on CBS in his post round. And he was talking about those mistakes. And it's a great reminder that even when Tiger Woods was stomping the crap out of everyone at the U.S. Open, you go back to that story that Stevie Williams has been telling, where he gave Tiger the very last ball on 18 after Tiger hooked one halfway to Hawaii. They still make mistakes, and Tiger won by 15 shots at the 2000 U.S. Open, but he didn't play flawless. He didn't play a perfect week. No one does, even when you're setting scoring records. Xander Schauffele, 21 under last year at the PGA Championship. He didn't have a perfect week. And it was a nice reminder that you're not going to have a perfect week without some sort of mistakes. Even when Scotty won the Byron Nelson and he blew out the field and he was 32 or 31 under, he still had there were still some flaws. There were still some mistakes. It wasn't the perfect week. And that's, I think, an important thing to keep reminding yourself, is especially when you're trying to, whether you're betting on golf or just analyzing golf or watching it as a whole, it's not about the mistakes that you make. It's about limiting those mistakes, overcoming those mistakes, and can you correct them in the moment or the next time you're in that same scenario. Leave a 20-footer up the hill short. Okay, maybe you read it a little bit better next time. Or like in DeChambeau's case, a couple of putts where on 16 and I think it was 13, where it looked like he just tried to ram it through the break and it lipped out. And if it had to have been 13. It didn't hurt him then. He still made par, but then 16 it did. He made bogey, and that probably sent him on 17 feeling like he had to chase and get one back, rather than if he had taken his medicine on 16 for what his mistake was earlier, then maybe he hits a more conservative shot on 17. And it's about those compound mistakes. How do you take a mistake like Scotty Scheffler, bogeying 11, immediately bouncing back with a birdie, bogeying 13, immediately bouncing back with an eagle? Now he's made up one shot over the last 4 holes. Even with 2 bogeys, he's still ahead. That is the difference in winning a major championship and losing it. And it was just a great perspective from Jon Rahm. And I really enjoy hearing Jon Rahm when he's not grumpy or upset about things. He really is so thoughtful, and he says things very well. And he's a really smart player, and that's why he's one of the top 5 players in the world. Not just his talent, but because he is so smart and he uses that when he's playing. Siwoo seems to be gaining fans. And I've got to wonder if that's from the 2022 President's Cup, where he really made a big splash. But there seems to be a lot of, if it's not Scotty, Siwoo might have the second largest fan group out on the course. Let's see. Alex Noren. Let's talk a little bit about Alex Noren. Ends with birdie on 14, birdie on 15, par 16, birdie 17, birdie 18. The only guy who did it better was Scotty Scheffler. Puts himself in the final pairing, and Noren was hurt, ends up coming back. Longtime player on the Euro Tour, has 10 wins on the Euro Tour. Played in a playoff in the 2018 Farmers Insurance Open. Lost in that playoff. His best finish in a major is T6 at the 2017 Open. Also had a T9 at the 2012 Open. Has been around the block for a long time, but really hasn't had a ton of opportunities to shine in majors. He was on the 2018 Ryder Cup team when the Team Europe dismantled the United States in Paris. But it's cool to see Alex Noren not just bounce back from his injury, but like I said earlier, this is just his 7th competitive round since that injury. He's been out for over half of a year, comes back in a big way, has the 2nd best round of the day, gained 6.5 strokes on the field, 3.3 strokes gained putting, 3rd best on the day. Also was solid tee to green, gaining over 3 strokes. Nearly gained 2 strokes around the green, hit some really good bunker shots, especially on 15, where he ended up holing out of the bunker. But he did a lot of things right, and I'm not expecting him to win. I think a good week for him would be if he finishes top 5. But hats off to Alex Noren for coming out here and kind of taking everyone by surprise and reminding everyone that he's back. And it's just cool to see these kind of stories come to fruition. So hats off to Alex Noren for great day today. We'll see what he's got in the final pairing. God, Vegas hit a terrible tee shot on 15. I hooked it way left. I don't know. Even the broadcast seemed pretty shocked. They're like, what in the world happened on that tee shot? And that really, in my opinion, ended Johnny Vegas's opportunity at winning the championship. I wrote down, did Scotty win it on 17 when he rolled in birdie? And then it seemed like he ended up winning it on 18, perhaps, with that 3-shot lead. That's really all the notes that I have. Let's take a look at the pairings going into tomorrow. So final pairing, our time, 11:40 a.m. Scotty Scheffler and Alex Noren. Right behind them, Davis Riley and JT Poston at 11:30. Jon Rahm and Siwoo Kim at 11:20. That would be I would, if I were attending this championship, that's the group I'm watching. Siwoo and Jon Rahm. If they get off to hot starts, the vibes could be high. That could be a group where they could feed off of each other, simultaneously make a charge, and you could have a pair of 65s or 64s coming out of that pairing. That could also turn very sour very quickly as well. But that is that's the pairing I would be watching if I were on the grounds. Jonathan Vegas and Keegan Bradley coming out of nowhere. That is your 4th to last pairing at 11:10. Tony Finau and Bryson DeChambeau at 11. Matthew Pavone and Matt Fitzpatrick at 10:40. Let's see. Joe Highsmith, Bellarmine Prep's own, at 10:20. He'll be playing with Garrick Higo. Right before then, Cam Davis, who has ties to Sammamish, he is at 10:10 with Lucas Glover. Let's see. Any other interesting pairings? Not a whole lot going on in the back of the field. Nothing really. Luke Donald playing with Thorbjorn Olesen. Maybe Thorbjorn can show off for Luke Donald and be a captain's pick this fall. But yeah, that not a whole lot going on back there. But most intriguing pairing, I think, is Jon Rahm and Siwoo Kim, because I said at the beginning, I think those are 2 of the 3 guys. I think DeChambeau's the other guy that can come back and challenge Scotty. But if Scotty Scheffler, I think, shoots, if he gets to 14 under, it's definitely over. 13, the door is open for Siwoo and John Rahm at 6 under. That would mean they'd have to shoot 7 under 64s. But the likelihood of that, it could happen. But I think Scheffler, if he gets to 14 or better, it's a wrap. Game over. It's just a matter of how much does he win by. Sorry to Alex Noren, Davis Riley, and JT Poston, and Jonathan Vegas, and Matt Fitzpatrick, and Tony Finau, and Keegan Bradley, and Matthew Pavone. I think you guys are all sorting it out for top 10s. That's really about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot to preview for tomorrow other than, as it stands, can Scotty Scheffler close the deal, and how much does he win by? It would certainly be interesting if he isn't able to close the door, and what happens should he falter in any way. Right now, his odds are minus 450 to win. Second best odds, interestingly, is Alex Noren at plus 1,800. John Rahm's at plus 2,200. JT Poston, Bryson DeChambeau plus 3,000. And Siwoo Kim is plus 5,500. I'd take a flyer on that. He's plus 150 for top 5. That's an interesting odds line according to DraftKings right now. But Scotty Scheffler, this is his time. Talked about it earlier that he has an opportunity to get halfway to the career Grand Slam and now show that he can do it. Again, Quail Hollow is a regular stop on the PGA Tour, and this is where he can pick one off. But the great ones win majors that they probably should. You know, there were a couple of times where, like Tiger in 2000, he won the majors that he should. Now, like 2000 at Valhalla, had to work a little bit for it, but he ended up winning it. 05 Masters, that was one that he should have won. Torrey Pines, 2008. Torrey Pines is his favorite course. That's the place that he's, maybe outside of Augusta, been the most successful at. And you might even be able to include Augusta in that. And Tiger's had the most success at Torrey Pines. That's one that he probably should win. He found a way to win, even on one leg. This is one that Scheffler probably should win. And I think this actually changes the way how I look at Scheffler, especially if he goes out and stomps everyone on in the field. And if he wins this by 5 or 6, well, 4 or more, we'll just say, if it turns into a runaway, I think this will really show me that, okay, Scheffler is different than the rest because he's winning the ones that he should, or at least contending in the ones that he should. McIlroy will give him a free pass because it's been a wild month of emotions, and I can understand where it just wasn't his week, and he's sitting at 2 over. McIlroy is. But some of these other guys, like Colin Morikawa, disappointing week. He's 3 over. Brooks Koepka not making the cut. Ludwig Oberg, Justin Thomas. Like, those are guys that should be making the cut and should be inside the top 30. Some other disappointers. I mean, I don't want to beat the dead horse with Joaquin Niemann, but still outside of the top 30. That's very disappointing. I mean, that Max Homa, I know there was a lot of talk about him. He ends up shooting 5 over today, and he ejected himself from the tournament. Wow, he lost almost 4.5 strokes tee to green. That is 69th. That's 5th worst. He's been having his struggles, so I won't completely say it's a lost week. But for Scheffler, this is This is one that he probably should win or at least contend. He was the heavy betting favorite, and this is why. And it looks like, unless something weird happens tomorrow, he'll probably be taking the Wanamaker Trophy home. Other than that, like I said, I think it's Siwoo Kim or John Rahm or Bryson DeChambeau who will challenge. I don't see anyone else giving him a run for his money. Be interesting to see if he has the same start again, if he bogeys, has some bogeys early, but Scotty's so stoic that he bounces back from seemingly anything and everything you throw at him, that it's not over, but he's got one hand on the Wanamaker. And I think if there's anything that would have Scotty shoot par or worse, it would be if he gets into trouble early and he cannot reset. If he can't reset, the door is open for anyone. But if he gets off to kind of a boring Scotty Scheffler start, pars, maybe a birdie, front nine, it's 35. Maybe he shoots like a 34, or even if he shoots 35 with like a birdie and a par, nothing, or a birdie and a bogey, nothing too interesting going on. That's dangerous with some scoreable holes coming up on the back nine. But if he goes out in 37 and it's a struggle and it looks a lot more difficult than it should, similar to what Jonathan Vegas did today, like Vegas, it felt like he shot worse than 73. It's actually kind of a miracle that he only shot 73. It felt like he was in that Max Homa zone where he was going to shoot like 75 or 76. So if it looks a lot harder for Scheffler, that's where he could lose it. Someone could take advantage of that opportunity and go out and get it. Likelihood of that is pretty low, as you could tell from the odds. A couple other things before we wrap this up. Course played 1.5 strokes over par. Afternoon wave, 2 strokes over par. Morning wave, 1 stroke over. Back nine playing easier than the front. Back nine was 0.6 of a stroke over par. Front nine, nearly 0.9 of a stroke over par. 7, 8, 10, 14, and 15 are the easiest holes on the course for today. 17, rightfully so, hardest hole on the course. Only 6 birdies on 17, 5 doubles or worse. Playing at 0.4 of a stroke over par. 11 was actually the second hardest hole. Only 1 birdie at 11 today. And 2 doubles or worse, 24 bogeys. It played 0.36 strokes over par. But the green mile, it's green miling. 0.32 strokes over par, 16. Only 2 birdies on the day. That would be one of them was the very impressive birdie from John Rahm. 17, just mentioned, 0.42 strokes over par. One of the 6 birdies is your 54-hole leader, Scotty Scheffler. 18, a little bit easier, 0.3 of a stroke over par. 11 birdies, 23 bogeys. So did see a couple of birdies, especially from the late groups. Not the final group, but a couple groups coming in were able to get some birdies. But keep an eye out on 11 and 14. Easiest hole at 0.45 strokes under par, 0.36 strokes under par, 15, 1 eagle, 37 birdies, just 7 bogeys on that par 5. 8 was playing very easy as well. I like that hole today playing up. Be cool if they do that again. Don't know if they'll have it be a drivable par 4, but that could be a spot where it jump starts a run for someone. Look for 7 and 8. If someone birdies 7, which also played under par, 27 birdies today, no eagles, by the way, on the par 5. But that would be the area. Birdie, maybe even eagle. You could see eagle, theoretically. But let's say birdie 7, drivable par 4 again tomorrow on 8. Maybe you see an eagle. Didn't see an eagle today, but maybe someone who's needing that run coming from 5 or 6 under. They need it. They get it. They're playing free. They're playing loose. They're having a good time. 9, it's playing about a quarter of a stroke over par. So get a par there. Perhaps birdie 10. Now you're right in the mix. Get through the hard holes of 11, 12, 13, where you're probably not making birdie. Let's see. You've got not even 50. You don't have 15 birdies on 11, 12, and 13 combined today. You get to the scoreable holes at 14 and 15, and maybe you play the Green Mile even or even under par. That's the formula for someone coming back. Play the first 6 holes even. Birdie 7. Birdie question mark eagle on 8. Par 9. Birdie 10. 11, 12, 13. Maybe you pick off a birdie somewhere along the way. Absolutely birdie 14. Absolutely birdie 15. Green Mile is even or 1 under. That gets you right around 6 under par. And you never know what can happen after that. But who can do it? Let me know in the comments section. Don't have anyone in the chat. So that should be about it. We've gone a little over an hour. Try to keep these at an hour or less. So let me know. Who do you think wins? Does Scotty win? If you think it's Scotty, how much do you think he will win by? And we will be back tomorrow night to recap the PGA Championship. Who will be hoisting the Wanamaker Trophy? Will it be Scheffler, Alex Noren, Davis Riley, JT Poston, Siwoo, John Rahm, DeChambeau? Other should be a fun day anyway, even though it's a major, right? It's a fun time, and really looking forward to whoever ends up winning. And then we have our eyes set on Oakmont, and I am very giddy for how Oakmont will play, but we still need to wrap up the PGA Championship. We will be back about the same time tomorrow, whenever play ends, whether it's in regulation or a playoff. As soon as it concludes, we'll be right back here. Thank you again for joining. Thank you for watching, whether it's live or whether you're rewatching it, reading all of our content on the website. We really appreciate it, and I really appreciate it, especially for the golf content. So that does it for round 3 PGA Championship recap. We'll see you tomorrow for who will be the winner of the PGA Championship. Have a great and safe evening. See you tomorrow.